Arganissima, New York. Your exotic skin, hair, and beauty source, and your one-stop shop for all your natural and organic skin and hair care, featuring authentic organic Moroccan oil and prickly pear seed oil and much more. Bringing you only the best, straight from the source and proudly produced in the USA. So what are you waiting for? Shop today at www.arganissima.com. Arganissima, New York. Your beauty.
Folks, welcome back to the iHealth channel, iHealth Radio. We're your host, Hurricane H. New day, new show, new topic, new guest. Very interesting topic, something that I enjoy much. If you were with me on social media, you would know I love inspiration, motivation. I'm all about thoughts, and they're very powerful. Thinking can make a difference. How you think makes a difference in your life. And today's guest with me, as you can see, is Barry Nicolaou, all the way from Sydney, Australia. He is a business coach. He's an author. He's got a powerful book out there that we're going to talk about, and the content of the book, as well as his future endeavors that he's working on right now. And really, he is enthusiastic, about the work he does, about, really changing and transforming people and how they think. And as they do, as you would, think and change the way you apply your thinking and your thoughts, life will become a lot more, positive for you and more successful. And with that being said, I'm not going to go any further. Barry, welcome back. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Hurricane. It's great to catch up with you here.
Well, it's an honor and a pleasure, and I know we're going to have some fun today. And let's first things first. Let's just introduce Barry, and for our audiences, at least they know your background and how you went, how did you went about going for a book like the one you have, a bestseller book, right?
Yeah, it's actually a crazy story, Hurricane. I'm not sure how long you have.
All the time.
So the year was, I'll try and shorten the story. The year was 2015, and I was on my way to see a customer of mine. At the time, I was in the shoe industry in Australia. And I had a call from my customer saying, well, Barry, we're running a bit late. Can you delay us 1 hour? And I said, of course I can delay you, no problem. And don't ask me how this happened, but my car felt like it steered itself into a beautiful cemetery that we have here on the northern beaches of Sydney. And I start driving down these beautiful wide roads, and I pulled the car over. And I actually felt very despondent with who I was at the time. I mean, I was earning good money, I was providing for my family, but there was a hole inside me that I didn't quite know how to fill. And I think many of us face this dilemma in life where we earn our money, but there is something also missing. A yearning is the best way to describe it, to be something more or to help others. So as I start walking amongst these gravestones, I started reading the years between people were born and people died, and you start working out the ages of how old people were when they passed away. And something crazy happened, Hurricane. I don't really care how this sounds because every word of it is true. I felt 3 words, and I used the word felt then heard, because these words felt like they were bombarded on an internal level for me. And since that day, since I heard those 3 words, everything changed. I started becoming more true to who I was as a person and what I believe my purpose is on this planet for the short amount of time that we have. So I went to bed that night. Those 3 words, by the way, were live your life. And I thought, not the greatest epiphany. I didn't understand what those words truly meant. But I went home that night, I went to sleep, and the word your was highlighted as if it was burning in my mind. I didn't understand. And then the penny dropped, and I thought, live your life. don't try to live a life based on what someone else wants for you or what society thinks you should be doing. Live a life that's true to who you are as a person. Sing your own song, more or less. And I started to ask some questions. What did I love? Where did I feel most alive? What inspires me? And I didn't quite know how to answer those questions, so I just started writing every day. It wasn't a thought through book, it wasn't anything specific. I just started, it was a brain dump of information that I just started to write down about the things I was passionate about, and the topics that really lit me up inside. That turned into a year-long affair of 6 a.m. mornings, and for an hour every day, I just started writing and writing and writing, and that turned into 11 chapter headings and a book. Um, at the end of my manuscript, I thought, how on earth am I going to get this thing published? I know no one in the publishing industry. And then I get a random Facebook message from a publishing house saying, we publish books. If you have a manuscript, we'd love to hear from you. And I thought, this is the universe speaking to me. And this is what tends to happen, I believe, when we're on a path that we're destined to be on. The green lights tend to happen quite quickly. If you find that your life is a consistent stream of red lights, then it's trying to take you on a different road. So I've learned to appreciate that and understand that. So in my life currently, I know I feel my way forward. What feels good, what doesn't feel good, where the green lights tend to be and where the red lights tend to be, and I go with the green lights are showing me to go, and that feels right for me. So the book ended up being an online course. We hit #1 on Amazon with the book. We ended up being an online course. And the people that do the course here in Sydney, Australia, most of my customers are in Australia. You end up receiving a 60-page blueprint on who you are, what you want out of life, to identify the toxicity that also exists in your life right now, because the toxic people, scenarios, situations, the news, all these things tend to get us down. And I'm all about feeling good. I'm all about understanding that I'm at my best when I'm joyous and when I'm happy and when I'm motivated and when I'm inspired. That's how the best of me comes out. So I want to feel like that as often as possible. So I'm a bit selfish in that regard. I try to look for things and ways and scenarios and people that fuel me, that bring me joy, and I do the same for them. So you end up culling a lot of people, scenarios, situations that aren't in that direction. And then the book's done really well for me, and the second book is on its way. So it's very exciting.
That is some powerful stuff.
Yeah,
I'm just absorbing it, and
yeah, yeah.
the story itself is very touching, because I think
Mm.
everyone that's watching and listening, or even eventually somebody will catch this particular show. Uh,
Yeah.
we all live our lives, and
Mm.
sometimes we don't pay mind to a lot of things. And the fact that you were there and you were reading that, and
Mm.
it is a
Mm.
simple book, right? Live your life,
Mm.
and that,
Mm.
to your point, can be a lot of things. As a matter of fact, your life means yours, not somebody else, as you said, or just enjoy your life, as simple as it can sound, you know,
Correct. Yeah.
because life is too short, right? And we don't realize how quick that is. I mean, again, I stated in a couple of shows before, I just turned 50 this year, and it's like yesterday.
Congrats.
Thank you. So it's hard when you think about it in terms of half a century. Now, some people, are luckier; they live longer. Some people
Yeah.
have been as
Yeah.
lucky, and they I've lost some friends who were younger, right?
Yeah.
And when you start thinking about it, like, what have I done with my life?
Yeah. Yeah.
And is it, and you start becoming a little bit wise, a little bit more, on the wisdom side, because you start
Yeah.
reflecting on a lot of things. What could I've done there differently? And you know what? Nothing that you've done you could have done differently at this point, because it's already happened. So we can't change the past.
Exactly. Exactly. No, 100%. And I think just more to your point, half a century, it's half a century of wisdom, isn't it? It's half a century of lessons and joys and understanding. And then the person that you are today, Hurricane, is an accumulation of all those beautiful experiences that have made you put this beautiful show together.
Yes.
You, so it's just it's heartwarming to hear that and to see stories like yours as well, because sometimes life can take you down a very bitter path if you have a lot of hardships. Like it's not hard for it to take you down a path where you get very, very frustrated with your life. And that's, I guess, where I start to think about what impact do our thoughts have to create the reality that we want to experience. And I mean, we'll talk about it during the show, but we have an unbelievable power that has been given to us from up on high, and it is the fairest power you will ever experience in your life. If we have choice in thought and choice in action and choice in experiences, then we have choice in reality. But where we go wrong is we continually feed our mind with worst case scenarios and toxic people and bad food and no exercise and all these scenarios that set up a very lazy oriented mindset. And from that, we experience a life that is a reflection of that mindset. So it's unbelievable the power that we do have within us from a manifesting point of view. Um, we're doing some talks in Sydney. I'm doing some talks in Sydney in the next few weeks because our COVID numbers have finally gone down, and the spaces of keynote addresses are opening up again. And one of the big takeaways is the fact that that the soil will not reject a weed. The mind will not reject a negative thought. It will not do it. Its job is to expand. The soil's job is to expand whatever you plant in it. It's not going to say to you, hurricane, that's not a rose bush, that's a weed. You shouldn't, it's not going to say that. It's just going to do its job. It's going to expand the weed for you. So it's very important what we plant in our garden of our minds to then nourish and grow as a plant. And this is why most people have messy gardens, messy mindsets, is because whatever comes into their minds, we end up planting and nourishing, and the mind is giving it sunlight and water, and it's cultivating the soil for you. It's doing everything so that that seed expands for you. But if we're not specific about what seed we plant, then we're going to end up with a very mixed reality, a very mixed mindset. Most people say, I've lived a 50-50 life. There's 50% good and 50% bad. And they keep using this analogy with me. But if you look at the seeds that we've planted along the last half century, there might have been 50-50 weeds and 50-50 rose bushes. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. Oh, I'm with you, Barry. I mean, I,
Yeah.
first of all, personally, I mean, I'm your type. I mean, literally like you. And my thought is very different from most. I mean,
Yeah.
well, I wouldn't say
Yeah.
most, but at least the way I think. I don't dwell on things. I'm always
Yeah.
positive. My mindset is everything. Uh,
Yeah.
I don't believe things happen just ad hoc. Everything is
I
meant
agree.
to. There's no such thing as a coincidence. So I
No.
have they have different formulas that help me and got me through life. And
Mm.
I've done a great job so far. But you know
Yeah.
what it is, whether it's in business, career, family, all the stuff. I enjoy myself. I travel around and
Yeah.
do things. But
Yeah.
I you said something about got me to do the shows, and literally that's exactly right. The idea, I've had quite a few years of experience, not only in the personal life but in the
Mm.
business world, and since I've been in the healthcare industry, and
Mm.
I've
Mm.
seen a lot of stuff. And the idea was like, well, people don't know what's going on out there. And
No.
so that was it. Plus, I've always been a trainer, so that's the other thing:
Mm.
motivation, inspiration. I mean, sales also. So that's
Mm.
that's a drive. And I do believe I've been in martial arts all my life. And one thing that I've learned when I was a kid is that you learn the martial arts and you have to teach them. And so knowledge is meant to be taught to somebody. You take it and you give it. So the point is, we live our life and we don't even leave a legacy. We live a life,
Mm.
you don't contribute to anything good or positive
Mm.
or around you. It's like,
Mm.
you provide light, you provide
Mm.
the
Mm.
environment to
Mm.
other people, and maybe you
Mm.
can guide someone and change their life.
Mm.
How many
Mm.
people? I'm involved in a lot of different groups, for example, so in Facebook, and it's all
Mm.
motivational stuff. And you'd be surprised how people really engage with that, and
Mm.
it's needed. Like, to your point, this world, There's a lot of bad stuff going on all over
Mm,
us,
mm,
and it's been
mm,
ongoing, and it will continue going. But the way
mm,
to get over it is how to think about it, how to position yourself. And you said it. If you feed bad stuff, it's still going to deliver something. It's going to have weeds, but if
yeah,
you do
man.
the right
Yeah,
stuff, you're going to get the right plants, the right fruits, whatever. So it's that
absolutely.
kind of thing. The mind is not only powerful; it's the most powerful thing we have.
Absolutely. Actually, if you want to get more specific, imagination is probably the most powerful tool. You know, when people say, imagine how bad it could have gone,
Yeah.
or imagine how good, no one ever says, imagine how good this could be. Everyone says, imagine how bad it could have gone. Now, as soon as we activate our imagination and feed it with emotion, as soon as we, so think of emotion as rain and think of imagination as the soil and the plants. As soon as you water the soil with emotion, then you're giving encouragement for whatever is in that soil to grow. So we have to get really, really specific about the plants that we end up planting in this soil. Most people, we're bombarded with 1,000 different things every day. So it all ends up being this mix of emotional states. Some of it might be good, most of it might be bad, and then we'll form a life view based on our experiences that we habitually tend to embrace in ourselves. And then the other part of the equation, and for the people that might be listening with, say, parents or grandparents that might have acted a certain way, and then they've passed their mannerisms down to their children and to you possibly, we call that inherited thinking. And excuse me. And unless we don't identify what inherited thinking is good for us and what inherited thinking is toxic, then we will just live our life like a zombie. We will just walk through life without knowing that we're sabotaging ourselves from grandparents that, yes, have been through scarcity, that have been through war, that have been through horrible crimes, that have, and they've passed this fear-based mindset down to the generations because of what they've gone through. Okay. So now you're speaking to the grandchild of that grandparent, and they've got an opportunity in front of them to find love or to find a business or to find a job. And if they're carrying a lot of that fear that hasn't been checked, then they probably won't go for that reality. Because there's something inside of them and they don't know what it is, but it's that inherited biological type of thinking that ends up taking over whatever opportunity is in front of them. And we're living in new times, we're living in a new scenario, we're living in a new world. There's opportunities that exist today with the internet, there's opportunities that exist where, there's Bitcoin, there's all these cryptocurrency, there's all these opportunities out there where you can research them and see if it's right for you or whatever it is. But unless you are open to that from a objective point of view and say, okay, I've got my fears, I've got my joys, I recognize that I've got all these jumble of thoughts in my mind, but I'm just not going to pay attention right now to the fearful stuff. I'm just going to look at this opportunity in front of me with a fresh set of eyes. I'm going to look at it with perspective. And you know what? I think from that vantage point, I'll make a really good decision because I'm not necessarily saying it's got to be this way or that way. I'm just looking at it objectively. And that's the key. That's the key that we don't really tend to do, is we don't look at it from a place of, let's see how this can work out. We're looking at it from a place of, oh, imagine if this goes south. Imagine if this really turns out being bad. Imagine what situation we're going to be in. And the more we continue to fuel that type of thinking, the more the reality must match. Hurricane, I know I've spoken a lot, but there's so much to talk about on this subject. We continue to fuel, our humanity continues to fuel itself based on our fears rather than based on our joys. And I think when you say, oh, the world's in a bad place, or I say, oh, the world's in a bad place, look what's happening in Europe right now, look what's happening with the pandemic, look what's happening with businesses failing, with marriages falling apart, and we consistently give ourselves examples of how bad things can be, and then we end up being habitual in our thinking, well, we're going to keep going down that road of let's imagine more things about how bad things can be as well. And then with creating a life experience based on how bad things can be. So it's very important that we just take note of that. I'm not saying you should just live on a rainbow and look at how good things can be all the time, but you have to balance it. Do me a favor. Don't just look at one side of the equation. Go, okay, this is how bad things can be. Let's just suspend that for 10 minutes. I can get back to it when I want. But what if things really work out? How good can they be? Okay, let's start thinking about that. Let's start putting our imagination into, what do I want? What do I desire? Who do I want to help? How much money would that take? Who are the people around me who could be on this mission with me to try and help other people with what I want to create? Oh, I wonder if Hurricane would be interested. I wonder if Barry would be interested. I'm going to reach out to them and see if they're interested. Like, why do we not go down that road? Why do we only go down the road of how bad things can be? So that's where we have to consider where we're placing our emotion and where we're placing our minds, and eventually that seeps into subconscious thought, and you won't remember feeling any other way. You'll always remember feeling fearful about something. It'll be your default state of mind. And that's where we meet people that are consistently negative or toxic to themselves and toxic to others. They've been feeling that way for so long, they don't know how to feel any other way. So for me, I just try to limit myself. If I can't help someone, and I know in my heart that they're not in the right mind space to be open to a conversation with me, then I know that I'm wasting both of our times, and I don't want to do that. So, and especially my time, because my energy and my time is very important for me to be able to manifest the things that I want to manifest. So, I think I've spoken long enough.
No. Listen, I mean, you're speaking literally my mind right there, and I
Yeah,
just
yeah.
just add to it, and you actually hit on very very key point, right? One is we are kind of raised in some way by other folks. Those could be our parents, our environment, our school system, our surrounding, folks. I mean, your entourage, your friends, and sometimes even the media. What you get fed, can have a contribution to how you think. And, but what we forget is that, first of all, to your point, why do we always think about the bad? If there is bad, there's got to be good, and good is probably more. And
Yes.
but the problem is that because we're conditioned to whatever, like, you can only do this. What says you? Or just because someone did it a certain way, I don't have to subscribe to their way. I can have my own way. We are individualized, on our own way. We have our own fingerprints. we have certain things that we don't share with other folks. Therefore, you are unique. Everybody's unique on their own. And again, to that quote that inspired you, live your life. Your way, your style, your formula, your signature, personal, you.
Yes.
Give it your own outlook. And you know what? Regardless of the word, you adapt, you adjust, you make a difference, you change. But if you think negative, it's not working, because you have issues, you have problems, things are not doing, you're stressed, you're anxiety. Work is not working out. Like you said, a lot of red dots. Well, hello, wake up. There's got to be better. And you know what? Surround yourself with better folks. Surround yourself with better information. Avoid the negative. I don't have to watch. I stopped watching the news. There's no news is good news. That's what you say. Why would I watch the news? I mean, there's a twist in that one. But the fact is, I watch it. It's depressing. I stopped watching anything about the pandemic for a long time, because at the end of the point, it's like it became almost like, just, my God, it's stress. Why do I'd rather be positive. And to your point, time is value. Time is more than any wealth, because it's the only thing you run out of.
Correct.
And you want to enjoy that time and do the best things, help people, do things for yourself, family, enjoy every moment of it. Don't miss, because before you know it, at the best or the worst, your body's not going to function the same way it did years before. Things can happen. People were healthy and they may not be healthy. So do the best for you. And also, if you feel that other influences are turning you into something that is not positive, it's good. I mean, it's funny. My wife and I, we had a joke the other day, and she said, my name is John. She said, why people always say good morning and good afternoon? Why doesn't it have to be great morning and great afternoon?
Good point.
I mean, seriously, she said it. I'm like, that should be a good TikTok moment. you know,
Yeah.
but the fact of the matter is, like, true, we say good morning and we appreciate it, but it's a great damn morning.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
fabulous. And when you start with that positivity, your energy level is different. And if you feel like, to your point, you encounter somebody that no matter what you give them, you try to help them, to guide them, to give them feedback, they don't want to take it. Guess what? Sayonara, bye bye. I'm moving on.
Absolutely.
I'm not
Absolutely.
allowed. Yeah, go ahead.
It's no, so true. You know what I've realized since I wrote the book, it's been 7 years. I've realized something since I've wrote it, and I've changed my approach to a few things, Hurricane. And when I first wrote it, I thought that everyone wanted to lift their game, whether it be to understand more or to grow more in themselves, or to really embrace the potential within themselves. I've realized since then that there are some of us that are on the precipice of making a life change, and there are those of us that are not at the precipice of making a life change. And the best analogy that I've come up with on my own here in Sydney is, if I'm talking to a crowd of 100 people in a room, and let's just say, for argument's sake, that everyone's sitting at 9, and at 10, they make the decision to change something, okay? We could be speaking to a room full of threes, fours, ones, sixes, sevens, nines, zeros. You don't know where everyone's at in their lives. But what I do know for sure is that everyone that I speak to in that room will go up one number. The sevens will go to eights, the nines will make decisions, the threes will go to fours, the zeros will go to ones. And that is our job. That is our we I'm not going out there saying I want to change everyone, I want to change the world and all this kind of nonsense. What I do want to do is, I want to take the six, sevens, eights, and nines and take them up a notch, because they are the people that are very close to making a, a, a life-changing something, and some of those could be big things, and some of those could be small. It could be as not putting up with an abusive partner. I'm not going to do it anymore. He's hit me enough, or whatever it is. Or yes, I'm going to now start that business. This is the right time. Or yes, I'm going to ask that person out. I'm not going to be embarrassed anymore. I'm sick of being embarrassed. I'm going to put my heart on my sleeve, and I'm going to ask them if they want to drink. And that they are the nines. They are the people that want to go to tens. And as long as we're taking everyone up one number, then we're spreading the light. And I keep saying, I've got a 4-year-old and an 18-month-old at home, and they're two girls. And what guides my decisions every day is, what sort of world do I want to leave for them? Two little girls all alone in the world. One day I won't be here, so they've got to be able to, I guess, not just fend for themselves, but they've got to be able to see the world through daddy's eyes, how dad would want the world to be. And the way that is, look at how dad lived his life. And if that's something that they resonate with, then hopefully they will also do the same. But if they don't resonate with it, I don't know what I'll do.
Well, again,
I'll be dead anyway. Who cares?
they'll do good. I mean, first of all, you said it.
Yeah,
Influence is key, and
yeah.
you are already an inspiration, right?
Thank you very much.
You are inspiring, millions around the world, because people eventually get to the shows and the books and so on and so forth, and they will
Yeah.
see it here today and tomorrow. It's not going anywhere. Once you're on the internet, forget about it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
they have their own different personalities. They might adapt to it differently, but that's okay.
Yeah, and they might. And then again, in 20, 30 years, Hurricane, we'll be old men by then, and it'll be a new world for them. It'll be a world based on the rules of that world. It'll be, and I keep saying, we're looking at this war in Ukraine right now, okay? And not to bring it back to any sad news, but if you really want to see the state of the world, don't look at Putin. What you look at is the reactions from different countries and from corporations all around the world. Look at the reactions from countries and corporations. That's the state of the world. If there was no reaction from any country or from any corporation. I mean, I'm reading IKEA is closing stores. I'm hearing that Disney is suspending any films in Russia. There is a lot going on, that corporations are taking a financial hit because they believe in the righteousness of not doing the wrong thing by another sovereign country, right? So that's the state of the world. That's the real. So there's a lot of love. There's a lot of respect. There's a lot of understanding. The world is lifting. The only way you think it might not be is because fear ends up being a louder voice than love. But there's more love. There is much more love.
Yes.
But fear ends up being it just ends up shouting louder. And unless you and I and people like ourselves, Hurricane, people of influence that can help people understand the potential and the love within inside them, the moment that we stay quiet is the moment that fear gets stronger. The moment that we keep speaking and keep spreading the love inside, that's the moment where love also gets stronger. So what do you want to feed? And this goes down to everyone listening, the conversations you have with yourself, the conversations you have with friends and family, the conversations you have with work colleagues. Every time you speak and think a thought, ask yourself, what sort of world do I want to live in? What sort of world do I want children to live in? And is this conversation aiding to that world? Or is this conversation aiding to a world based more on being afraid? And I don't know about anyone listening, but for me, I want to hop on the side of love because it's our default state of being. It's funny. Love comes more naturally. The emotion of love comes more naturally to the human heart than any other emotion. The feeling of love, we crave it. We crave it so much, and we love to give it.
Barry, you really hit on another key. It's funny because on Friday, I remember earlier I mentioned to you I had the live psychiatrist, monthly show with Dr. Heim from Sydney. I mean, he was in Tasmania. He was in Tasmania in that particular show, but he is from Sydney. And we talked about, because it's Valentine. It was February, so we talked about Valentines and the power of love and stuff. And we actually touched on the war and all that. And the whole topic, I mean, we talked about love and relationships and how to improve them and how to be positive about it. And you're right. If we talk bad, it's going to, it begets bad, right? But love is a lot more powerful, and I don't think people want to do otherwise. Everybody wants to be loved and to love whatever they want. But you're right. It's you talked about your children in the future. I actually had that discussion with my kids. I fear for the world that my kids are going to be in. Sometimes you almost think like, it's a true story. My son, he says, I don't want to have kids because I don't want them to actually struggle in the future. And this is a 16-year-old. So just imagine that. But that's because, they are aware of what's going on. And as much as they live their life, there are influences. And who knows? I mean, economy, pandemics, again, war. It is. Yeah. But if you live in that cloud, though, if you live in that negative and always like just feeding that, you're going to get stuck. Think about, to your point, green, beautiful, a better world in the future, no war. I mean, we can turn things. You and I can make a difference. Everybody can make a difference.
They can. They and what I'd be saying to your gorgeous 16-year-old, I'm not sure if they're a boy or a girl, but oh boy, what I'd be saying to them is, listen, do you think it's fair that we only look at one side of any argument? And he'll probably say, no, if you go to a court of justice, there'll be the lawyers that are defending and the lawyers that are prosecuting, and each will have 50-50 in what they believe to be the truth, right? So, okay, if that's true, then why are we only looking at the negative in life? Why are we only allowing the prosecution to talk? Why aren't we allowing the defense to say anything, right? So this is what we have to do. We have to sit down over a dinner table with everyone that we love, and we're just going to say, you know what? Yep, the world's pretty crazy right now. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about all the bad things that are happening in the world and list them. Go through everything. The pandemic's a big one. The Russian invasion, Putin's invasion is another one. You might think about someone that that's lost a business. That's another one. Someone that's not well. That's another one. Let's talk about all these things. Okay, we've finished talking about that now. Another 20 minutes has gone by. What about the other side of the equation? What's actually happening that's good? And what's interesting is that we have to try. Not many people do that. They don't actually have any gratefulness or any gratitude for the good stuff that they've got going on. They don't balance the equation. We only sit on one side, and then we think we're being objective and we're being fair by only talking about the bad. I mean, that doesn't make any sense, right? So at least if you come from a place of, oh wow, there's bad stuff happening, but you know what? I'm actually alive right now. And that's pretty crazy because hundreds of thousands of people around the world didn't wake up this morning. Didn't think about that one. Didn't think that there's actually work for us to do when we actually got up, and there are babies that die, and there are 100-year-olds that die, which means that our time could be up at any time. We do not know. That's left to the universe. That's a cosmic mystery. We don't know when we're going to go. So if that's the case, then why don't we live the best life we can with the time we've got left, which is unknown? So why are we sitting there focusing on how bad things are when we've got probably 5 times more good things happening? Just look at our bodies, Hurricane. We can see, we can smell, we can taste, we can walk. People are in wheelchairs. We can walk. No one thinks about that. We just get up and walk and go and get a coffee. No one thinks about the fact that we can walk, right? It doesn't enter our consciousness every day, but it should. We've got a little bit of money in the bank. There are people rich and there are people poor. We might have a little bit of money in the bank. We've got a roof over our heads. That's pretty cool. Not everyone has a roof over their heads. Just look at the refugees that are escaping the Ukraine right now. Do they have a roof? No. We've got it. Not grateful for it. Do you know what I mean? So we have to try and make sure that if we look at the bad, and especially for young people listening, don't buy the notion that the world is going in a really bad place. It's not. It's just that we need to speak up for love. We need to speak up for potential of joy. We need to speak up for gratitude. We need to speak up for every good thing. A baby's being born. Those babies don't know what world they're being born into. So we show them the love that we want the world to be like. We show them that as parents when they're little, because we want the best for them. We don't show them the news, and we don't show them the war in Ukraine to a 3-year-old or to a 2-year-old. We show them the love, and we show them the people that we would love them to become. And when we're at that level, the world gets a little bit lighter. It gets a little bit more sunshine in it. The moment we stop talking and stop thinking that way, the world becomes a little bit darker. So we have to get really specific, plant those seeds very, very specifically, get them happening into the light. And
I'm listening to you, like I'm telling you, like we're either you're psychic or maybe we're because some of the things that you're talking about is stuff that I live by every day and share every day. As a matter of fact, I
Thanks,
post
Eric.
memes. I post memes about those things almost every day. And you're right, gratefulness. You have gratitude, right? Being appreciative to things that you have. You're right. I mean, there are things that we do by default: breathe in, see in. There are people that would love to see. People would love, as you said. I mean, people would. Safety is key. I mean, if we have, I put the other one, a little quote the other day. If you wake up in the morning healthy, safe, you got food, you got a shelter, no one is kicking you out of your home, you're a king, you're rich. There's nothing more that you want at that point. Now, this doesn't mean position. This is you're a millionaire, a trillionaire without having a penny if you have your health, because you can be plenty of money. Forget about it. Money that you can't even count, right? Yet, a disease can come in and destroy all that. Nothing you can do with your money. You lose. I made a joke in one of the shows before when COVID hit. I mean, I did get the bug over the last 2 years, and for about a few days, I lost my taste and smell. Everything tastes bad. Everything smelled like nothing. That in itself. The gratitude I have after the fact that I started smelling back and tasting. Yeah. I mean, you enjoy life with that. But we take that for granted on a day-to-day basis. Like, what is that? But when you're missing it, that's when you realize, oh, my God. But you're right. We live every day, and we have to always consider the bad. Consider the good in this world. There's plenty of it, and we can be good. We can drive good. And to your point, love is the key.
And you're so right, Hurricane. It's interesting. I was researching the other day about the fears that we're born with. There's only 2 fears we're born with as human beings. There's only 2. The rest of our fears we pick up along our physical trail of life. You want to know what those 2 fears are? You probably already know them. The first fear that we're born with as babies is the fear of a loud explosion, a loud bang, something that has startled us, a big sound. Say something blows up next door and fear kicks in, right? And you start looking for the exits and you start looking for shelter, and because something has happened that isn't part of the environment. So you start to have fear. That's the first fear you're born with. The other fear you're born with is the fear of falling, the fear of gravity. So if you're falling out of a plane without a parachute, that's a legitimate fear. You're going to splat on the ground. Do you know what I mean? So that's a fear. Those two fears biologically are the only fears we're born with: the fear of a loud bang and the fear of falling. That is it. Everything else we pick up through life. So let's say you name 20 fears that you don't want to experience or you don't want to happen. Somewhere, someone has, or something you've seen, or something you've experienced, or someone's told you something that has instilled fear. And that fear has stayed because you've looked at examples in the world of it being true. So it's ended up staying for you. It's ended up being a legitimate subconscious belief that those things are true. And then we live our life based on the fear of this particular thing happening or not happening. Who cares? But we're going to keep this fear close to our chest because things can go wrong. And we make our decisions, our joyful life-based decisions with those fears within us. Now, I'm not saying you're going to have no fear, and I'm not saying that some fear isn't healthy, but we don't draw a line. We just let it go. We just let it run rampant. The rope is endless. We're just giving fear as much rope as it wants, and it's going wherever it wants to go. Whereas what we should be doing is keeping a bit of a tight leash on that fear and going, okay, bad potential things can happen, and that's true because I've seen that in the world. But that's not going to stop living me from a place of love. That's not going to stop giving love to my kids. That's not going to stop me from potentially starting a business, which I think would be great right now. That's not going to stop me from buying this house because I want my children to live in this house. It's a beautiful house. We can afford it. Let's buy this house. So that's not going to stop me from making joyful, love-based decisions. But with a lot of people, unfortunately, it stops them from making those decisions, and it stops them from thinking in a way that enables more love to enter their lives. Unfortunately, it ends up, they say that if fear ends up resonating, staying within you for a certain period of time, it does turn to anger. It turns to frustration. It turns more aggressive. It doesn't stay as this little fear. It ends up feeding. You end up feeding the fear, right? And anything you feed is going to grow. So you end up feeding this fear, and then you end up becoming a little bit more bitter and a little bit more angry. And you try and hold that anger underneath and show a beautiful face to people, but the anger is still there and the frustration is still there. And you don't know how to get rid of it because it's been part of you for that long. And the only way, I'm letting you know, the only way I found that you can get rid of that anger is to love yourself for everything that you are. Your good decisions, your bad decisions, your good moments, your bad moments. Just love all of it. And if you can just do that for a couple of minutes a day, then you'll slowly dissipate that anger in the soul that you've been trying to shift for a long time. You'll just slowly start to just, I don't know if you play chess, Hurricane, but in the game of chess, no two pieces can occupy the same spot at the same time, right? Makes sense, right?
Mhm.
So one piece has to move for that space to be free in chess. So it's the same. If you've got all your spaces filled with fear, then love cannot enter because there's no space left. But if you just take one of those pieces and put them off the board and you free up a piece, you free up a square on the chessboard, then you have the potential for a love piece to move in its place. Does that make sense?
It certainly does. It's actually very powerful.
Yeah,
and,
man.
and as
So,
simple as that, but it's a great example. And you're right.
yeah, yeah,
People buy the fear, and to your point, it's not something you're born with. You
mm,
learn some of these things, and depending on the environment, as a matter of fact, when you think about it, kids don't fear a lot of things.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
As you age, they start worrying. Like as we get older, we start worrying about all the things, and we have every weight of on our shoulder about everything. Oh, I can't lose a job. I can't do this. I can't do the
yeah,
other. What
yeah,
happened?
yeah,
But you're right. We don't have to do that. Take again,
Absolutely.
risk is part of life. You want to be successful, take risks. It's okay. What's going to happen? You lose, you start again. But if you don't try, you don't know. And you don't even have to think about losing. You have to think about, I'm going to go and get it and make it happen.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly right. And you know what's interesting? If you want to get really philosophical about it as well, I've been doing a lot of thinking about failures and people failing and them getting discouraged from those failures, okay? And that's the main thing we're coming up against. People start something, they fail, be it a relationship or a business or a nutritional program, whatever it is, and they fail at it. It puts them off for trying again. But what if every failure had in it a lesson that we needed to understand deeper to then try again more intelligently? What if that was true? Because that's the God that I believe in, the God that consistently gives us deeper understandings of what love actually means. And if we're at a place where we're becoming offended, or where we're in a place where our ego is taking over and we feel justified in our resentment, and we feel justified saying, no, Barry, they were wrong doing that, and we feel the ego is taken over within us, then we're at a place where we're not absorbing the love-based lesson that is trying to be taught to us, because our ego has gotten involved and we think we're right. So the world is full of leaders that justifiably think that they're right. And what you get is a lot of nations going to war with other nations from leaders who honestly believe that they've got their truth on their side, rather than sitting down at a table and saying, right, talk to me about your perspective. I'll talk to you about my perspective. And let's try our best to find middle ground. Let's try our best, because this war that's happening, or this conflict that's happening, it's not worth the human lives that are going to be lost, of children and women and men that are going to be lost because my ego has said to me that this is more important. Does that make sense?
Barry, you're hitting on a topic that we can spend hours on right now. But you, it's amazing because to your
Yeah.
point,
Mm.
I think I've seen something a while ago where
Mm.
instead of having war, and two countries go at it, just have the two
Mm.
leaders face each other up, in a duel, and that's it. End it up. Why do we have to have the whole nations and everybody fight
Yeah.
when just
Yeah.
stick it on the ring, and see what's up, or
Yeah.
do a dance off? I don't know, but
Yeah. Yeah. Do a dance off. That would be awesome.
that'd be good. Like, you know what, Putin, let's make sure he does some brick moves here.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
but,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
but really, it's you're right. It's simple. We have the ability to sit and talk civilized. we
Yeah.
we can have multiple opinions. We don't have to always agree. We can agree to disagree. That's okay.
Mm.
But at the same
Mm.
time,
Mm.
we can have I had this analogy the other day, the number 9 and 6. Depends when you
Mm.
sit, see it, we're seeing the
Oh,
same
of course.
number, you're seeing 9, I'm seeing 6. It's
Yeah.
still the same number, damn it.
Yeah.
It's
It's
just
the
my
same. Yeah.
perspective
It's yeah.
is
Yeah.
different than yours. But to your point, ego, personal ego, for what?
Yeah.
If you look at history, no tough guy or gal that existed still is here today. They won wars, they gone. They lost wars, they gone.
Yeah.
Millions of
Yeah.
children are lost, and families and property and money. For what?
Yeah. Yeah.
For
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
What do we learn from history? It shouldn't even happen anymore. But
Yeah. Yeah. Spot on. You're 100% accurate, man. We're definitely on the same page when it
I'm
comes
telling you,
to that.
frequency, babe.
Same frequency. Yeah, I think you're right. But it's exciting. There's a lot of things we can speak about, but I think probably the most important thing, I'm not sure if the listeners may or may not agree, but from where you are in your life right now, if you want a change of something, if you want a desire from where you are right now, don't worry about the past and what's happened and any mistakes you think of you've made, or any resentment that you're still holding with a family member or whatever. Just treat today as a new sunrise. Today is a new day, new book, new sunrise. If today was the day you were being born again, what new decisions would you make?
Mm.
And that is the question you have to answer. Because I think as we go on from day to day to day to day, all of our past 50 years, 40 years, 60 years, whatever, melds into today. All of our experiences, all of our joys, all of our frustrations, all of our hates, all of our loves, all kind of a big ball of wire. And they make how we react today, and how we view people today, and how we see ourselves today, and just make today a bit of a cut and go, okay, I'm being born again. I'm like a baby. I would like to experience this reality. I'd like to have abundance. What does abundance mean? Abundance means that I want long health. It means I want good friendships. It means I want multiple income streams. So I've got free time. The income streams are for your time. They're not just to sit there and look at in the bank. It's to free yourself up to spend time with the things that you want to do, right? I want good family relations. So okay, if that's all true, then what actions and what thoughts do I have to think about and do to make those avenues a reality? And when you think about things, and this is how I teach people in my one-to-one coaching practices, today's a new day. What does that look like? And it's amazing because the mind then goes to everything's fresh. We've wiped the board clean, and you're not necessarily burdened down with any guilt or fear that you might have experienced. It's fresh. We're starting fresh. And then you start to consider, okay, the first thing I need to consider, the first thing that's true in all of these aspects that I want to create, the first thing is what goes on up here, what goes into my thoughts. So what does that mean? Where are my thoughts coming from? They're coming from bad areas and they're coming from good areas. Okay, I'm going to limit myself the bad stuff because I can't limit all of it. You know, you're going to hear about things, the news, people will tell you things anyway. So you're not going to limit all of it, but you'll limit some. And you say, okay, the bad stuff, I don't really need that because I know from experience that that creates bad scenarios. I don't want that. So I want to create good scenarios. So what does that mean? It means that I want to start with gratitude. I'm going to start with, holy shit, I'm still alive. That's pretty big, right? And okay, from this, what can I do? I've got contacts. I've got people that I can talk to. I've got a little bit of money in the bank. And you start working through scenarios of imaginative possibilities rather than imaginative negativities. Does that make sense? So then you start going down that road and and then you start looking for things. The subconscious mind will start looking for scenarios that match the positivity. You'll get a phone call out of the blue from someone and you thought, that was a coincidence. You know, I was after this and I got a phone call and it was exactly what I was after. How does that work? But all you're doing is you're using the same force, the same power that can grow the weed, that can again grow the flower. We just have to get focused on the flower, not so much the weed. And when you do that, people will say you got lucky. And people will say that scenarios happen for you. It never happens for them. But all you've done is you've shifted this into, okay, how good can things be? Let's just play this out for the next few minutes. Let's write it down on a piece of paper. And when you start looking about how good things could be, you start thinking, holy crap, this can end up being really good. And I want to live in that world. And I want to live with that joy in my heart because I know that my kids need that part of me, not just the fearful and the negative and the be careful, don't do this, and be careful, don't do that. They've got enough of that in the world. But what I want to be an inspiration for joy and an inspiration for love and an inspiration for possibilities and an inspiration for gratitude and an inspiration for God's love. That's what I want to be. That's what I want to leave. How do I do that? Focus on those areas. Focus on the areas that are in line with those actions and realities that you want to live. Focus on that. Plant those seeds. And all of a sudden, you'll have a garden and people will be coming to you, Hurricane, and they'll be saying, how did you do it? And you'll say, everything that comes in here ends up being an expression of the reality that I live in. So, mate, just if you want to get into shape, Hurricane, what's the first thing you do? You exercise and you look at your nutrition. It's the first thing you do. And then people say, oh, you got a great body. Look at your body, man. You're so fit. Well, hang on. That doesn't happen overnight. But I've looked at my nutrition, I've looked at my exercise, and I've looked at what goes on up here. And those three things combined gives you this body. So if you don't want to do those things, then how can you expect what you want if you don't put the thought and the action into it?
Well, Barry, it's amazing because you're talking about something very simple yet complex. First of all, if you take it, it's one day at a time. We live a day, literally a second at a time, a minute at a time, an hour at a time, and frankly, a day at a time. You know, some people are so stressed out about what's going to happen in the future, and they're concerned. Let's make today, as I said earlier, a great day. Let's make the best of today.
Amen.
Yeah, exactly, right. And also, you know, let's not worry about all the bad things that can happen, and let's not worry what people are going to think about me and what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And yes, it's gonna take action. It's you think that's the other dream. I have this thing, dream so crazy that you can scare yourself. Actually, right with that. You know, some people actually envy you for your own dreams. You know what? Don't envy me for my dreams. Just do better. Dream more. I don't care what you do. I mean, the sky's the limit on how much you can dream and what you can dream of.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, a dream remains a dream unless you take action. You wanna start a business, guess what? Think it, what it is, start working on it. Don't wait until it's all ready. Just get started. It will start. Like your point, you started with writing that book, just writing. It wound up in a master book, a course, in a business. That's exactly this podcast. This channel started with an idea, and now we have 2 years in the making. It's the same thing with everything else. So folks, just drive themselves nuts about this, but they can make life a lot easier for themselves and enjoy life better. To your point, make money, but for the right reasons, not just to collect it and save it, and then one day you depart and it stays behind you. Make it work. So before I know time is catching us, here. But, Barry, I want to talk about quickly the book. I mean, I know we talked about briefly, but so you have 11 things in that book, or concepts. Can we list those things?
Oh, well, actually, I was going to say I won't list them, but what I will do is I'll ask people to buy the book because it's going to help.
All right, I like it.
Please go on Amazon, buy the book on Amazon. It's only a few dollars. Get the digital version or the hardcover, whatever you want. Buy the book. Secondly, I will say this. When I was writing it in 2015, Hurricane, I know a lot of wealthy people, as you might know, a lot of wealthy people with a lot of money, right? But they were actually having this sense of there was this hole in them. There was this fulfillment that wasn't there in their lives. Their businesses were successful, but all other parts of their life were failing. Their relationships were in trouble. They had no relationship with their children. They were not at family catch-ups. There was no holistic understanding that life's lived over many categories, not just over one. So what I found 11 areas that intersected financial success and personal fulfillment. Those two areas need to be combined because a lot of the times we get the money and you just ask a lot of rich people out there, are you truly happy? And a lot of them will probably shrug their shoulders and say, yeah, I'm happy, sort of. I've got everything I want. I've got the car, I've got the house. I can go wherever I want in the world. I can buy whatever I want. But there's this sense of they're searching for something else that they thought that the money would give them, but it didn't. So that's fulfillment. And the only way you can gain fulfillment, there's only one road. It's to throw yourself in the service of people. It's to be consistently in service of others without expecting a return favor, without an agenda. So, Hurricane, you come to me and you say, Barry, I'm looking to catch up with my cousin in Sydney. There's nothing in it for you, but could you try and do a bit of chasing around for me? I'd really love to touch base with them. And there's nothing in it for me, but I want to throw myself in service of you, Hurricane. So I'm going to say, you know what? I'll try my best to locate them for you. And I will be your contact here to try and do that for you. So it's that continual, how can I be of service? And this is where the fulfillment aspect comes from. It ends up going from a self-centered making money and that's all I care about to how can my presence be of service on the planet to the people around me that need to understand what I know and need to understand that they have the same power that's within them is within me. It's the same force. It's the same energy. It's the God source energy that is within every single one of us. And that source energy will say to you, I will give you whatever you want. Just direct those thoughts in that particular direction. You can have anything you want. There is no holding back. God created from nothing, right? So I'm of the opinion that we are many parts of that consciousness. We are many parts of Source, of God. And if He can create from that, and we're small parts of Him, then we can do it as well in our short 60, 70, 80 years that we've got on the planet. So we've got that energy within us. Where is that energy? We can't feel it and touch it. It's up here. So it comes with whatever thoughts that go into our mind. We will then experience the reality of those thoughts. We will experience the tangible truth of those thoughts. Does that make sense?
Yes,
Yeah.
sir. Larry,
Yeah.
Larry, I know, we can,
We're out of time, are we?
we can do more, but the book is 11.
The 11 Master Secrets to Business Success and Personal Fulfillment.
There you go. So that's the name of the book, and it is on
Yes.
Amazon. It's digital and hard copy. You can get it, and also they can folks can reach out to you through your website, right?
Please do
And
it. Just go to barrynicolaou.com. We're focusing more on the pandemic, on well-being and wellness right now. So we're helping corporations out in a big way to help their workforce understand a lot of these concepts a lot more fully.
and Barry, you mentioned earlier only in Australia, or you can also open to folks from all over.
Oh, where I can well with online now. So a lot of our programs, Hurricane, are done online. So
Mhm.
absolutely, we haven't sold to anyone out of Australia just yet, but we are definitely looking to expand in the US. So if there's anyone listening that would definitely like to chat, just reach out through the website, and we'll take it a step at a time and really help as much as I can.
Well, Barry, just as you know, this is actually broadcasting pretty much all over the world. So, there's not just in the U.S. So we'll have folks from Europe, from Canada, and other parts of the world, as well as all the podcast world. So it's going to be out there. People will hear it, and there's so much powerful, messaging here in today's show. So I know that people are going to enjoy it, and definitely, they should reach out to you for more, because I know you can do more than just in the hour that we had today. you know so folks, I encourage you, as you listen and watch, you will have the actual contact information, the website, and how to get the book in the description of the show. So look out for that, and that's about it. Just follow some of the advice of Barry today, and your life will be a lot better for us all. Barry, that being said, I really enjoyed every minute of this show, and
So
time
did I.
has taken us over the hour, but I think it was worth every single second of it, or split second of that.
Thank
Uh,
you. Thank
no,
you very much.
thank you. So any last comments before we close?
I just think make sure that if you're listening to this and this show has inspired you, don't let that inspiration just sit there. Just look at what the next right move would look like with that inspiration inside of you. Look at so I've got all this great inspiration within me, and I wanted to do this specific thing. What would that next right move look like for me? And then once you identify it, do it.
That's it. That's the advice, folks. Thank you for being with us today. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening in. Today is a great show with Barry Nicolaou, and hopefully you've enjoyed it. So we'll be talking soon. Different show, different guest, different topic. Ciao for now. Bye-bye.